The Galactic Council had classified humans as a Category 3 species when they first encountered them. Physically unimpressive, technologically primitive, and strategically insignificant. Captain Vrel of the Araxian Diplomatic Corps reviewed these assessments as his ship approached Earth for the first official cultural exchange. Such fragile creatures, his second-in-command, Officer Tens, remarked while studying the biological reports. Minimal exoskeletal protection, inadequate natural defenses, and abysmal regenerative capabilities. Vrel nodded, his crest flattening in what passed for Araxian amusement, yet they survived on a death world. Fascinating anomaly. The exchange program had been the humans' idea, a gesture of goodwill after first contact. The Araxians, like most spacefaring species, saw little value in it beyond basic diplomatic courtesy. What could these soft-skinned beings possibly offer the greater galactic community? Their shuttle landed at the designated cultural center in a place the humans called Rome. The delegation was greeted by a small group of representatives, led by a human named Marcus. "Welcome to Earth," Marcus said with a smile that showed too many teeth. A gesture Vrel's cultural briefing assured him was friendly, despite triggering several Araxian defense instincts. "We're honored to share our arts and culture with you." Vrel's translator implant caught a whispered conversation between two human attendants. "They don't get it, do they?" one said. "No," the other replied. "They never do at first." The initial exhibitions were predictable: technological achievements, historical artifacts, cultural garments. Standard diplomatic fare that every species showcased. Vrel found himself checking his chronometer frequently. Then they entered a room called the gallery. The first painting stopped Vrel in his tracks. It depicted a human battle scene. Bodies contorted in agony, faces twisted with determination and fear, weapons raised against impossible odds. "This is called liberty leading the people," Marcus explained, "from our French Revolution." "You celebrate your violence?" Officer Tens asked, genuinely puzzled. "We commemorate our struggles," Marcus corrected. "This piece represents our fight for freedom." They moved to the next room, where a massive marble sculpture dominated the space. A human male, anatomically detailed, poised in a moment of decision. "This is Michelangelo's David," Marcus said, "created over 500 Earth years ago." Vrel circled the statue, his analytical mind struggling to process what he was seeing. "You carved this? By hand? From stone? With simple tools, yes," Marcus nodded. "No molecular assemblers or precision lasers." The party continued through rooms of paintings, sculptures, and installations. Each piece seemed to capture something the Araxians had never considered art could express: raw emotion, philosophical inquiry, spiritual yearning, or brutal honesty. In the music hall, they experienced a live orchestra performance. The complex harmonies and emotional crescendos sent waves of unexpected sensation through Vrel's nervous system. Several members of his delegation had to excuse themselves, overwhelmed by the neurological response. "How do you withstand this?" Vrel asked Marcus, his voice barely audible over the symphony. Marcus looked surprised. "Withstand? We seek it out. This is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. He composed it while completely deaf." The dance performance that followed demonstrated the extraordinary control humans had over their seemingly limited bodies. The dancers pushed physical boundaries that made the Araxians reconsider their initial biological assessments. "They're injuring themselves," Tens whispered, noticing the strain and occasional bleeding from the dancers' feet. "Yes," Marcus acknowledged, "but they consider it worth the cost." Later that evening, they attended what the humans called theater, a performance of Hamlet. The portrayal of such complex emotional and philosophical themes by beings simply pretending to be others left the delegation in stunned silence. "You create these elaborate fictions to examine yourselves?" Vrel asked afterward. "To examine everything," Marcus replied. "Our nature, our societies, our universe, our gods." On the final day, they were shown literature, human stories spanning thousands of years, epic tales of heroes facing impossible odds, intimate portraits of individual struggles, speculative visions of futures that might never exist. "Your species is obsessed with its own limitations," Vrel observed while reviewing translations of human classics. Perhaps, Marcus said, or perhaps we're obsessed with transcending them. Later, in private quarters, Officer Tens approached Frail with evident concern. Captain, our assessments were incomplete, he said. These humans, they deliberately inflict emotional and physical distress upon themselves to create these arts. They'd willingly experience simulated trauma for entertainment. They dedicate entire lifetimes to mastering skills with no survival advantage. Vrel stared out the viewport at the city lights below. Because they're frail, he said slowly, they created an entirely different kind of strength. Sir, their art is not decoration, Tens. It's a weapon against despair, against meaninglessness. They use it to transform their suffering into something powerful. Vrel's crest rose in the Araxian expression of profound realization. We've never needed such weapons. The Galactic Council received Vrel's updated report on humanity 2 weeks later. It recommended an immediate classification change to Category 1 with special notation. Exercise extreme diplomatic caution. Any species that can transform its greatest weaknesses into its defining strength is capable of anything. The humans, oblivious to their new classification, continued creating art, painting their dreams, sculpting their heroes, writing their stories, dancing their emotions, and singing their sorrows into the indifferent void of space, transforming it through sheer creative will into something that held meaning. And the watching galaxy began to understand. Perhaps humans weren't frail after all.